Well, we are officially into midweek today, Wednesday, and Women Crash Wednesday also to be considered, and also the 7th of December 2022. Good morning, welcome to this beautiful show where we get to start off the day with you. How was your night? Well, I want to hope that it was lovely, was beautiful. If it wasn't, well, there is always another time to make things better, one day at a time. If you're feeling all right, good for you. I hope the happiness can be consistent. And if things are not okay, again, like I said, we're going to be progressive. Just take a day at a time, relax, and try to see what's not making you feel all right. And we'll start from there. But this morning, obviously, we'll be starting from what's been happening around us. News. You know, yesterday we had our parliament seat. Again, very many revelations were made. And also the fact that an ordinary Ugandan has to pay about 730,000 Ugandan shillings to be connected to the power grid. Now, this is actually taking a toll on very many people. Matter of fact, the Deputy Speaker of Parliament, that is Honorable Thomas Tayewa, just thought that maybe if we got rid of the 730,000 Ugandan shillings, if Umeme just decided to connect people to the power grid at a free cost, they'd be able to recuperate this money in just a couple of months. Do you actually agree with him? Do you think that this is a functional suggestion? Because I honestly do. Very many Ugandans are actually not yet connected to the power grid, and that leaves us to, you know, ask questions. What will happen to us? We need electricity, you know, on a smaller scale, but even most importantly, on a larger scale. If we have a percentage of Ugandans that's not yet connected to the power grid, clearly there is still a whole lot of work to do. But also this morning I am joined by the wonderful co-hosts. I do have Felix Nkunda, I do have Mollen, Kenyena, I also do have Uncle Bob, Robert Kirabo, Nyonyintono, if you please to call him. But Felix, how was your night? Good morning.
My night was good.
Are you sure?
Yes, I am sure.
Okay. You need,
do I have any reason?
We need to see that goodness on the face.
No, I had a good night. I was home a little bit much earlier.
Yes.
Yeah, I had, so I went somewhere to just lose off the, you know, stress for the day. Then thereafter, I went home. Yeah, I watched the match. Was a fairly good match, you know.
I know somebody who is ready to rub it in this morning.
No. And I'm waiting for that.
Yeah.
I have a good rebuttal.
You came with your
I have a good
report.
rebuttal for that. Clearly, unless they didn't watch the match.
Hey.
Unless they didn't watch the match. But if they did, I don't expect much verbalism about the match. But
we have proof. We have proof, Felix.
Of who watched the match. That's the thing. Because the match is not just about who scores. It's about many other things. And prior to that, I'll tell you why sometimes, and I'm sorry to say this, but I don't vouch for countries like Morocco, Tunisia, Egypt, those countries around that area. I've ever been to some of those countries, and there's this nigger who has the boldness in his narrowness of mind to ask me, are you from Africa? And I'm thinking, dude, we are in Africa. Why? So because of their thoughts, they don't think like they're part of, and that's what came to my mind.
So it's a bit personal for you, in other words.
It is always personal, man.
It's always personal with you, Felix.
It has to be personal
anyway,
to get to me.
We'll be sorting those personal issues out, pola, progressively.
That's ish. But last time I asked you a question about that one thing that made you mad. I'm sorry, but these things that keep on happening, and I keep on thinking maybe I'll ask my colleagues, like what is that one thing that really scares you, Philo? And I really want to hear also from the rest of the guys.
One thing
that you're not afraid to say. And I'll tell you a story of one of my friends, what they told me, but probably later. But what is that one thing that really scares you?
Scares me? Failure.
What?
Failure scares me.
Philo, don't try to be philosophical. Just say cockroach, rat, or what?
Felix, a failure really scares me. The fact that if I put an effort and work towards something and it doesn't actually work out the way I expected it.
That's philosophical, but okay.
No, seriously, it does. Why are you asking that, Felix?
Because someone gave me a story yesterday about the greatest fear they've ever faced, and
Yes.
this was a lady. So she told me that she got married, and like, you know how things used to work, like our family gets me Mollen here, and bam,
Yes.
mbaga, they go home. At night, things started to change. She's like, hey, they cancel. Guy,
Felix,
and I'm thinking,
to just put you there. Uncle Bob, good morning. Maybe you could help us and let us know one of those things that really scares you most. You know, of course, in response to Felix's question. But how was your night? How did you sleep?
Well, I saw history being made. I'm an African person, and I had a reason to smile because since 2010, I must say, Morocco was the first African team to reach the stage where they have reached. So that was something to celebrate a bit, being an African. But also we find that it could be the first team actually to qualify, first African team to qualify through penalties. Though the game, well, penalties are penalties, and anyone can win. I would just commend them for having moved it for those minutes till the end and had to go into penalties. Of course, I know the lady here who I'm even once she has started. But anyway, the whole thing why we go in World Cup is not to reach quarterfinals, to go through the round of 16. The round of 16 is to come back with a trophy, and I think that will justify at the end of that day. Otherwise, it was a fair night, I must say. I had some bit of Africanacity, a bit of joy, but I knew it's short-lived. However, it is something to be happy about.
Yea of little faith. You two gentlemen keep disappointing me day by day. Wama, good morning,
it's not
Mollen.
little faith.
How are you doing?
It's
How
little
was
faith.
your night? Please make me happy this morning.
My dear, I think it was one of the greatest nights. That is for sure. I am here wondering, I'm like, how do you even afford to have negative energy on a day like this? Felix and Robert, you guys have an issue with football. You just probably don't know the statistics of how football is supposed to work. For someone who watched the 90 minutes between Morocco, I am telling you, how do you say that the game was, it's just unfair, but I am telling you, it was just a wonderful game to watch. And you know, they came in the game with a game plan, they followed that, and we did see that they actually got whatever they needed from Spain. I mean, if you look at the way Spain was playing, they were also aggressive. They came in wanting that win. They knew it mattered. Obviously it mattered. We're going into the quarterfinals. But Morocco managed to scoop that win. And if you ask me, even going into penalties, you can't just say that anyone can win at penalties. It also takes a team that is well organized to win the penalties. And of course, the goalkeeper did help. That was the man of the match. I did see quite a number of celebrations across Africa. And I was here telling people that, guess what? Morocco is now representing the entire Africa. And I can remember a few faces that were like, you and who? But this was an African win. We took it out there, and I still have hopes. But now it also poses a challenge, because we did see another win in the night. That is Portugal hitting Switzerland in a 6-1 win. And I'm telling you, I watched the Portugal game, and I was there like, okay, so Portugal can actually do well without Cristiano Ronaldo. To think they actually put him on a bench, and his replacement, he was just seated there looking at his replacement scoop a hat-trick. I don't know how that must have felt for Cristiano. But now we have to face Portugal in the quarterfinals. Morocco, Portugal. That is a game to watch out for. And I know there are still negative faces around this set, but I'm telling you, this is a very good step. Yes, Portugal did get that win, but you also have to recognize the fact that Switzerland has also not been, you know, playing so well. They've had a game of luck at a certain point.
Yes.
Well, Portugal even going there and getting that win, it was just an organized game. It is a big team, and that is what Morocco has now to face. But I know that the boys are up to the challenge, and they could still make Africa proud. That is one thing that I'm also looking forward to. And obviously, it's just a few days, and before we know it,
They will make Morocco proud.
before we know it, the win will be here, and of course we'll be up to
Here?
celebrating.
Well, yeah, in Africa. Well, it's Women Crash Wednesday, Felix. who are we crashing on this Wednesday? Since even soccer is not making you happy, who is actually going to make you happy
He just doesn't
this
know
Wednesday?
what it means. I think
focusing
you're even
on my
asking
team.
the wrong question right now. I don't think he's crushing on anyone.
Which team are you supporting? Okay.
You don't know?
No, I don't.
You're just putting on the colors that seemingly relate to that team. So,
Brazil?
you know, you can say that much better.
Come on.
It's actually Brazil. It's Brazil. So, Morocco, you are an African.
Yesterday he was like, Spain is my team, and now Brazil. These are the
Spain.
guys that are not focused.
It's a tic-tac team, man.
You're not focused.
Honestly and truly, I'll tell
Another
you.
day you'll be like, this is the man from
No.
England. You know?
And you see, people like Mollen want to intimidate us, to make us feel like we're not Africans and one. But I'll tell you,
that you're not African
I
enough.
didn't support Morocco,
Yes.
and that won't change anything. I don't even care what happened to them.
Where is your Africanity in this?
You see what I'm saying? If you don't support Morocco, it's an Africanacity. Okay.
Why do you have to support an African team when they are black, and you still are the same people that be here complaining of racism, yet you're trying to single these guys out because they are white? That is you being racist.
You're not going to force us to
That is you being racist. If it was Senegal right there, all of you would be like, yeah, that is Africa. You're being racist.
But I gave you my reason at the start, if you remember. I have faced that same behavior from those people in that country. I'm being honest. But so I don't want to go in that. But anyway, I'll tell you.
Everybody can support a team that really plays according to what they want. And
I don't know when we lost that
me,
right. Jesus, Morocco.
for me, I'm still going hard on Morocco, just like Mollen. And I know that the gentleman over there, Felix, is for Brazil. Is that what you say?
Brazil.
That? Yes, sir.
Definitely.
Definitely. Okay, all right. We are here, we are watching. We want to see who's going to be taking this.
So you want me to crush on somebody? I'll
Yes,
crush on
please.
these ladies who are supporting soccer. There's one lady, I don't know if you've ever been to some of these big pitches for the support. Man, ladies will support soccer, yet they don't even know anyone. They may not even know the team they're playing against.
Yeah.
For them, it's just about telling them, about him red. Or
There is
about
a
him white.
reason. There is a
And then-
reason. It's also a
Let me
reason.
tell you, I was somewhere one time, and I was somewhere quite abroad, somewhere watching football. This chick asked me, and she asked me in the about 76 minutes, I'm like, you've been shouting the whole time, you don't even know. I'm like, so.
Most of them are drunk there in the name of it's a date or something. You guys choose to do this to some of these ladies.
Then don't
know
shout
anything
more than
about
the person
football.
who brought you. Just
No,
say
but you
it.
may pick very specific interest in a player, probably wearing that kind of jersey, and you don't even know which team they are. But you take particular interest,
Then
and you're like, you know what?
ask
Because
the
Felix.
76 minutes.
why not?
The game
It's
is getting
better than-
done.
Reasons why ladies
at
fall
all.
for certain things will confuse you. A lady will support
Oh,
someone
Jesus.
because of their looks.
Yeah.
A lady will support that guy is smart.
It's a valid reason.
So for me, I choose to crush on
It's a valid
ladies.
reason.
Yes.
Can you imagine?
Whose lovers, boyfriends, husbands are sports people. You know, these are the ones I'm crushing on. That she'll support. Then the husband comes down back low mood, the lady also low mood, and some actually go and support the people they love, and that
Yes.
is the worst you can have on a pitch. If a woman is supporting the husband, even if they are corporate league, and someone problematically chooses to bring a better half,
I can't risk that, man.
Felix can't risk, because you know that
That's the worst support I will get, man.
it becomes a
Just
problem.
wishing.
She'll run from this side to the other side. Then if by any luck this guy scores a goal,
Oyo mwami wange, oyo mwami wange.
my friend, it is a disaster. So please save us. When you have these people and your sports people, either in athletes or in soccer, leave them home. They become a problem.
No, don't do that. Don't listen to this guy.
I've ever been slapped.
He's being a toxic man right
I've
now.
ever been slapped by a lady.
Let other people also
Out of
support us.
excitement.
It is good morning, Uganda, right now, and we really
Unbelievable.
we really need to get into the stories.
Mollen
But just
should remain
one last
home.
thing, Felix. If I told you the reason as to why I would love watching the Brazilian team play, clearly I would be judged. But
and
I
I
mean, we
can
all
tell
have
you that
reasons.
before you say it.
We'll be getting into our local stories. We'll be getting into our international stories as well. Robert, what do you have for us this morning?
Well, we are in the field of agriculture where His Excellency is calling for people to move away from rainfall-fed agriculture to adopt other means such as irrigation. Now, President Yoweri Museveni decried the resiliency on rainfall-fed agriculture as an obstacle to income and food security for farmers in Uganda. Museveni emphasized the need to roll out mass irrigation across the country to reduce resiliency on nature-driven farming. He was speaking during the third biannual conference of chief executive officers at Chowe Safari Lodge in Noya district. He revealed government's plans to invest in solar-powered water irrigation systems.
The 7-member select committee that was named by the Speaker to investigate the activities of the National Council for Sports and Accountability of Sports Funds has commenced its investigations yesterday at Parliament. During the interaction, the Minister of State for Sports, Peter Ogwang, and the Secretary General for National Council of Sports, Bernard Ogwell, clashed as they gave their submissions to the committee about Nambole Stadium Rehabilitation Fund.
And moving on, Ministry of Finance has opposed the resolution by Parliament of reversing the remittancy of local revenue collected by local governments to the Consolidated Fund. In a statement presented to the House by State Minister for Finance, Amos Lugolobi, the ministry says reversing the directive will require amendment of the Public Finance Act. In 2017, Ministry of Finance directed all local governments to remit all local revenue collections to the Consolidated Fund account. The directive was intended to reduce wastage and mitigate corruption in local government, which has in turn affected service delivery in local governments. In a motion moved by Wakiso Woman Member of Parliament, Edith Naruima, in 2001, members unanimously agreed that the directive can be reversed to save local governments from financial constraints.
The Ministry of Education and Sports has released its list of the 9th cohort for the students' loan beneficiaries for the academic year 2022-2023. The State Minister for Higher Education, Dr. John Kirizesto Muyingo, told the media that that of the 625 beneficiaries, 67% male, 33 who are women, who have benefited from this year's loan scheme program. Among the beneficiaries include 23 students with disabilities who are exempted to pursue their science or humanities programs. Out of the 3,089 applicants received this year, 2,417 were eligible. Of these, 1,085 were male, while 563 were female. The loan scheme targeted those who missed out on the previous academic year, as there was no 2020 USCE examinations.
Crossing over to the international scene, starting off with former U.S. President Donald Trump's family real estate company has been found guilty of tax crimes. The Trump Organization was convicted on all counts on Tuesday after 2 days of jury deliberations in New York. The business is synonymous with the former president, but neither Mr. Trump nor his family members were personally on trial. Vowing to appeal the verdict, Mr. Trump said he was disappointed and again described the case as a witch hunt. The company was convicted of enriching its top executives with off-the-books benefits for more than a decade. And tax packs included luxury cars and private school fees, prosecutors said, which made up for lower salaries and therefore reduced the amount of tax the business was required to pay. The company is expected to face a fine of around $1.6 million and may also face difficulty in securing loans and financing in the future. Now, Al Jazeera Media Network has submitted a formal request to the International Criminal Court to investigate and prosecute those responsible for killing veteran Palestinian-American journalist Shireen Abu Akleh. Now, Abu Akleh, a television correspondent with Al Jazeera for 25 years, was killed by Israeli forces on May 11th as she was covering an Israeli military raid on a refugee camp in Jenin in the northern occupied West Bank. The 51-year-old Jerusalem native and U.S. citizen was a household name and a widely respected journalist who gave a voice to Palestinians through her coverage of the Israel occupation. The request includes a dossier on a comprehensive 6-month investigation by Al Jazeera that gathers all available eyewitness evidence and video footage, as well as new material on the killing of Abu Akleh.
Another story, Africans rejoice as one after Morocco's historical World Cup win. Achraf Hakim was on spot. The Atlas Lions Spanish-born superstar wingback had a chance to send Morocco through to the World Cup quarterfinals for the first time ever. So when, following the nerve-wracking penalty shootout against Spain, Hakim ever so easily kicked the ball into the net at the Education City Stadium in Qatar. Thousands of spectators collectively heaved a huge sign of relief, and then they roared. Now a racket of cheering, singing and drumming overtook the stadium as soon as the historical match began. Reaching the quarterfinals was an unspeakable feat, adding to the successes of Arab teams Saudi Arabia and Tunisia, which beat Argentina and France respectively, despite their eventual exit from the World Cup. And in climate news, climate change has made some young Americans contemplating parenthood reluctant to add to the population. But a new survey shows the same group has also its doubts about adoption. Now, the attitudes towards adoption, with the global population likely crossing the 8 billion threshold in mid-November, according to the United Nations projection, pose their own challenges in a hotter, drier world that risks widening economic inequalities. Now, the upward population trend threatens to leave even more people, especially in developing countries, further behind as governments struggle to provide enough classrooms and jobs for the rapidly growing number of youth, and food insecurity becomes an increasingly urgent problem, the UN said of its population figures.
Good morning, Uganda still goes on. Today being a Women Crush Wednesday, we are giving you quite a beautiful jam called I Love Me from Demi Lovato. I don't know if any, do you love yourself, Uncle Bob? Do you feel that you love yourself?
Absolutely.
You're very certain. There is nothing that would ever give you second thoughts about that.
No. I'm perfectly created in God's image.
Okay.
Wonderfully made, handsome, and definitely I'm the best creation.
Well, that's the spirit. I really love the handsome bit. You are a handsome man. Well, we're going in for this inspirational song. When we get back, we'll be having some more conversations on our Good Morning Uganda newsreel segment. We'll be, and I know Felix wants me to ask him, but I will not ask him.
No, actually, I'm
we'll be
contemplating
back
on
after
Mr.
this
Handsome.
break. Well, we are officially into midweek today, Wednesday, and Women Crash Wednesday also to be considered, and also the 7th of December 2022. Good morning, welcome to this beautiful show where we get to start off the day with you. How was your night? Well, I want to hope that it was lovely, it was beautiful. If it wasn't, well, there is always another time to make things better, one day at a time. If you're feeling all right, good for you. I hope the happiness can be consistent. And if things are not okay, again, like I said, we're going to be progressive. Just take a day at a time, relax, and try to see what's not making you feel all right. And we'll start from there. But this morning, obviously, we'll be starting from what's been happening around us. News. You know, yesterday we had our parliament seat. Again, very many revelations were made. And also the fact that an ordinary Ugandan has to pay about 730,000 Uganda shillings to be connected to the power grid. Now, this is actually taking a toll on very many people. Matter of fact, the Deputy Speaker of Parliament, that is Honorable Thomas Tayewa, just thought that maybe if we got rid of the 730,000 Uganda shillings, if Umeme just decided to connect people to the power grid at a free cost, they'll be able to recuperate this money in just a couple of months. Do you actually agree with him? Do you think that this is a functional suggestion? Because I honestly do. Very many Ugandans are actually not yet connected to the power grid, and that leaves us to, ask questions. What will happen to us? We need electricity, on a smaller scale, but even most importantly, on a larger scale. If we have a percentage of Ugandans that's not yet connected to the power grid, clearly there is still a whole lot of work to do. But also this morning I am joined by the wonderful co-hosts. I do have Felix Nkunda, I do have Mollen Kenyena, I also do have Uncle Bob, Robert Kirabo, Nyonyintono, if you please to call him. But Felix, how was your night? Good morning.
My night was good.
Are you sure?
Yes, I am sure.
Okay. You need,
Do you have? Did I have any reason?
We need to see that goodness on the face.
No. I had a good night.
BC Studios in Kampala. This is Good Morning Uganda.
Pick of the day on UBC.
You can only become a leader when there are problems.
Behind the headlines.
So what are we federating?
Whether rats from another country can be, somebody must be there to hold everybody accountable.
Every Wednesday at 10 p.m.
First of all, we as elites of Uganda, we have made Museveni the issue. I can tell Museveni is not the problem of Uganda. The problems of Uganda are much deeper. We can change the next 20 presidents and we'll still be this roundabout.
Was brought to you by
Simply make a small deposit of 99k and pay the balance mpola. You can pay in daily, weekly or even monthly installments while you enjoy your new phone. So what are you doing today? Visit any MTN shop near you and get the MTN cupboard super easy.
The Ministry of Health informs the public that there are confirmed cases of Ebola in Uganda. We, however, urge the public not to panic as the situation is being managed. The Ministry of Health further reminds the public to be on the lookout for any persons who may show signs and symptoms of Ebola. These include high body temperature, abdominal pains, diarrhea, vomiting, bleeding from the body openings such as the nose, eyes, and mouth. Please inform the nearest health worker immediately if you see anyone with these signs and symptoms. To prevent Ebola from spreading further, please take the following preventive measures: regular washing of hands with water and soap, avoid handshaking and hugging, avoiding any contact with any suspected Ebola patients. Any person who dies suddenly should not be buried but reported to the nearest health worker or LC1 immediately. For further information, please call the Ministry of Health toll-free number on 0800 100 066 or send a free SMS to your report on 8500. This message is from the Ministry of Health with support from UNICEF and World Health Organization.
Paying for groceries the old way.
3, 4, yeah.
Allow me. Paying for groceries with the My Airtel app. You have the power in your pocket. the power to conveniently pay for goods and services. Unlock that power with the My Airtel app. Visit the App Store or Google Play now.
That's my wife. This is Good Morning Uganda.
Wednesday, 7th of December 2022. Good morning, Uganda. Welcome to the newsreel at exactly 3 minutes after the hour of 7 a.m. My name is Philomena Mastiko, and I am with Felix Nkunda and Robert Kirabo Nyonyintono this morning. And we're going to be talking about something that is quite interesting, okay, when it comes to what ideally I would call petty crimes, if that is something I could actually say, petty crimes, and how actually the police has came out just a couple of days ago to actually they came in to acknowledge that the Constitutional Court ruling that repealed and decriminalized the petty offense of rogues and vagabonds. Well, we'll be going through some of the petty crimes that they think that these shouldn't really be punishable. But before we get into all that conversation, also again in some sad news, if you have had quite a story about how a game ranger that was killed on duty, well, the Uganda Wildlife Authority has released a statement in which actually they regret to announce the death of Private Okawa Charles, and this gentleman, the late, who was killed by poachers on December 5th, 2022, while on duty in Kirabo Valley Conservation Area. Now, according to the statement that was released by the authority, they say that the late Okawa, together with 11 colleagues, while on patrol inside the park in the evening of December 5th, 2022, actually responded to gunshots between the Lorupe and Narus that led to a heavy exchange of fire that was between Uganda Wildlife Authority personnel and poachers, and unfortunately he was shot by the enemy fire during the exchange. Now, his colleague was also injured but is currently receiving treatment from Yotkom Medical Hospital in Kitgum town. One of the poachers was killed and a gun recovered while 3 others fled. Well, may his soul rest in eternal peace. And again, we hope that more cautiousness can be taken, and also in protecting these same people who protect our wildlife authority. Well, zeroing back to our conversation, our prime conversation this morning. Now, the leadership of police has come out to acknowledge the Constitutional Court ruling that repealed and decriminalized the petty offense of rogues and vagabonds from the Penal Code Act after it was found to be vague, archaic, and unconstitutional. Now, all police officers with immediate effect have been tasked to fully comply with the ruling and actually stop the arrests of all the minor infractions of rogues and vagabonds. Now, you'll probably be asking yourself, what are these petty crimes that they are calling a cake, the ones that they think are actually unconstitutional? Well, the behavior that are no longer punishable by law, I'm just going to give you a number of them. Number 1, being idle and disorderly, where any person is being a prostitute, behaves in a disorderly or indecent manner in any public place. We do have wanders or places himself or herself in any public place to beg or even gather alms or causes or procures or encourages any child to do so. Number 3, plays any game of chance for money or money's worth in any public place. I mean, we have seen a couple of these all over our streets. And publicly conducts himself or herself in a manner likely to cause a breach of peace, and without lawful excuse publicly does an indecent act. Now, these are just some of the the different personalities or different types of people being disorderly that we're looking at. And maybe just to start off with you, Robert, would you actually think that this was the right thing, that this decision that was actually made by the Constitutional Court ruling, do you think it was the right thing to do? These are probably actually petty crimes. They don't have any effect or they won't impact people at all.
Well, first I want to commend the judges of the Constitutional Court that they were able to come up with this ruling, and also want to commend the person who took this to courts of law. One, if there is any way I felt that the law was in for the poor, it was this time. Most of the times when you look at the laws, most of them tend to protect the rich.
That's not true.
You know? Protect the rich, because if you look at the laws that were repealed,
yes,
these laws in actual sense were targeting the poor. And if you look at how many of the people these laws were able to arrest or are in languishing in cells, languishing in prisons, it's a particular class of people that these laws were targeting. How are you going to find Felix wandering around? How are you going to find Felix in a funny urban center playing chance, you know, cards, what we normally call Zara? How are you going to find Felix maybe buying a prostitute? Maybe we'll go for a phone girl, but not to parade himself on a street. So, these specific laws we are talking about were actually targeting poor people.
Yes.
And these very laws that we talked about that are no longer punishable or unarrestable in this country had been used more so by enforcement agencies for extortion, because police would wake up one day and say to Kenyena trading center, let's go to the trading center, round up these young boys. They would reach there, grab them like grasshoppers, some run, fall, break parts, then bring them at a police station. Now their relatives come, then they begin discussing, how do we let go of them? Those that have nobody to follow them up end up in prisons, serving sentences. They can't have advocates. You find them on remand. They are congesting our prisons. If you go and ask, why are you here? They found us, friends, why are you here? We were moving at night. I was coming from this place. Then I was arrested. Chireresi. And now here I am, 6 months, 3 months. Someone who goes, then they dig into whoever's farm who was able to hire the prisoners. So, in this time and era, I feel very so often, though I have some reservations, but I feel these laws were archaic, were ancient, and were suppressing the freedoms of many people. Imagine you find a young man wandering around and someone says, police, we suspect this person. There is meandering here. They come, they arrest the young man. I'm only offended at the area of ladies of the night, where it is no longer a crime for them to parade themselves and light up streets, light up corridors, you know. Because there, police would come and sometimes make some rounds and scare them away. But for the for our moral values, I find that a bit disturbing. But otherwise, other offenses, I see no problem when the court ruled that way. However, it also had to follow under the particular section that were being repealed, so it benefited amongst that. So for me, I want to commend the courts of law and the person who found it befitting. We in our prisons, in this police, we were having very many petty offenders, you know, and I don't know why. I think petty offenders are easy to arrest.
Yes.
They're easy to arrest. They are easy to just bring before court, and the judge looks at Basali Day.
Yes.
Their things run very fast compared to people who have robbed, who have stolen, who have done what, who can't even have advocates. And then keep on defending them, keep on looking for technicalities of keeping them out. How many of these people were able to secure bond or bail? You get it?
Yes.
More so when they reach the level of court. How many of them? Go and make a sense, go and count prisoners in our prisons. I want Frank Baine to tell us how many of people that have been charged of these offenses and they are serving are in our prisons. So if we can ensure that we decongest our prisons, because they're having 3 times what they can accommodate. And yet really these offenses are light offenses. But unfortunately, they were the ones where convictions were very easy to secure.
Well, I know that Felix has a direct response to that, but as he's planning on the response, I would also maybe would love you to address this, because the takeaway from this constitutional court ruling is that the public should expect police to move away from, you know, these low-level disorderlies. I think this is what they call them, the ones that have criminalized the poor people and low-status people. But again, another issue that they did say that with this ruling, they believe that more resources are going to actually be released, and at least they will be given space to use those resources to address serious crimes. Now, can we actually say that this could have been the main reason as to why? Because we have seen very many court case backlogs, we've seen very many, unfinished rulings and all that. Like, there's been really too much. So can we say that this has been the cardinal problem, and this could be the answer to that problem anyway? Felix?
Well, I wouldn't directly concur into that analogy in terms of a school of thought.
Yeah.
Nevertheless, I would stretch for the father and say that having given due attribution to the causation in the decree as given by the court, you must appreciate that the cardinal aspect, in my opinion, having dug into the whims of the brain of the lords in the constitutional court, was by far best into the clash of colonialism vis-a-vis most recent times. When you look at some of the offenses in the Penal Code Act, appreciating the fact that this is a true juxtaposition or juxtastampeding of what was, because when the Penal Code initially is a makeup of what was the English law. We picked a bit of customary here, but majorly it was meant to criminalize behavior, practices, majorly for the white guys.
Yes.
So when you look at some of the offenses that the court has scrapped off, they are by far constitutional, rather colonial offenses. You get it? People are not allowed to sit together because the colonialists were scared. When people start meeting,
together,
what are they planning? You know? So they came on adding onto these offenses, but still using the foundation that was more colonial. For example, what is wrong when people start converging when someone passes? They are very funny. Someone passes, I hear, when you meet someone who has been in prison before, and then you see them idle, they are direct. All this kind of, they are basically entirely against people who were being feared. Now, because then there was a fear of power takeover, these whites were worried and saying, what if these people take over? So it was just about how do we secure our position. But also, how do we create, some of these laws were put in these acts to create a wider gap between the haves and the have-nots. You get it? Like the people, I'm sorry, I'm going to use an example like of Kololo maybe, or the places. Let's say it was questionable why you would see a black man or a man loitering around the areas of Kololo. Toina, your taka, Toina, your relative. What are you doing there?
Yes.
The point. That was the thought. The first thing that comes to the mind of these halves is that this person is. But there are many reasons why someone can walk around the different.
Idols are not allowed.
Yes. So who is idol, and what is being idol? And that has been the biggest challenge of proof for some of us who have been having such arguments before judicial officers. That how do we define idol? Why is it limited only to appearance of? Is it an interpretation of an enforcing officer who interprets? Is it qualified? I mean, when the body is not working, the brain could be working. It's been a big challenge, by the way.
Yes.
And many people, most times, the state has failed to have secure convictions where people have been able to get defense because of the ambiguities that come with the word idol. When you come to the case of our sisters who put themselves up for business as capital, it is not that allowing them to be where they are, there's no offense. There's a offense called soliciting. It's one thing for them to stand where they are standing, it's another thing for them to solicit.
Yes.
And that case is there. That one was not scrapped out.
Because there are actually some law disorderly acts that are still punishable by the law, still according to this court ruling. So
I think it is now the duty of our officers to come out and throw more light. But when you look at laws, they are meant to address challenges of times. And I think this was one of the issues that formed the minds of the justices of the Constitutional Court. How relevant are these laws in these most recent times? Do they still make sense? Because when you say that you're going to arrest people playing Chinese, let me call it that, my granny used to call it Chinese, others playing snooker in a state,
playing any game of chance,
others playing
money,
Ludo,
all money worth.
But today, it is no longer time wasting. It is business. And it can be defended. For some of you who have played these games, and that is the appreciation of the change of law, that law evolves with times. Someone goes into what you want to call a Stenson in the morning with 1,000 shillings, and they go home with 100,000.
But equally,
what
they
is
can
that?
Go home with none.
Well,
and have lost property.
No. Just like when you come to work here,
yes,
it's the same thing. You see, the problem is us thinking that people who come to town will come when you see people fighting for tax season, you think people who come to Kampala are the only ones working. COVID has taught us better.
Yes.
People work in bed. So that's a challenge of urbanization.
It's a concept that we have failed to understand, to adapt to.
When someone goes, and this is the problem, that now we want to bring in moral judgment. Hey, Hazanyata Paul, but the man has earned 50,000 shillings. You came to town, Ozunga, you don't even have transport to take you back.
Yes, remained within the locality, gone to a trading
working
center.
Smart, one would say. That's the thing. You see these people, I normally do some client work for people down places. And you find in the evening, people after work, probably about 3, they have those Ludo boards. But guys are playing a game. And the money they are playing for is about 400,000.
But now, I think the main issue is probably how they're doing this or where they're doing it from all the time. But
can't be the issue, Philo.
Yes.
Why would it be the issue?
Asking, should that be an issue?
And
should it actually have legitimate...
Why? But I think for me now,
as long as you don't attach criminality.
One thing I have with the Felixes of this world.
What with now?
is, you see, there are many things that are legally right, but morally wrong. And the law, I don't know if it factors in the moral
Let me ask Robert, on just that point, let me ask you something. Give me an example of what you're saying, that something is morally wrong and legally right. Give me an example.
What you're just talking about, this issue of playing Zara, this gambling thing, allowing this, even in the Bible, even in the Quran, this is haram, gambling. But legally, you're saying it is okay. Because now the law is saying, no, this is okay. But ask any person deeply rooted in their faith, they'll tell you, this is an haram. You see, we are people, instead of looking for better ways of earning and working, we are saying no. This thing, despite the fact that it is a crime, but people are making money. Prostitution
okay,
now.
I have understood, Robert, your point. But
you are
let me ask
calling
you a
it even
question.
sex workers.
You know
they
the
are
problem.
workers of
The problem with these people who call themselves moralists is one. It directly speaks into the biblical saying and the Chiganda saying that chiso chambuzi chirekerera omubazi kitunulira akolaki. Secondly, the Bible says, before you even talk about removing the pick in your brother's eye, it is okay for us to discuss people playing Zara, probably to feed their families, as immoral. But it's not okay for us to discuss the pastors who marry 7 wives and pastors who play Tai Chi on podiums of church. That is not immoral. You're quoting the Bible.
Yeah.
Now, that's something I was saying yesterday. It is not good if it is not for us. It is bad if it is for them.
But now, I mean, using the same example, already what they're doing is morally wrong. Are they illegal?
Based on whose standards?
But are they illegal?
Philo, let's be honest.
Yes.
What is the standard of morality? Who's the class monitor of morality?
Felix, if I read properly here,
Yes.
listen.
Read.
Among the crimes, the Constitutional Court ruled that repealed and decriminalized petty offences, rogue and vagabond, from the Penal Court Act, after it was found to be vague, archaic, and unconstitutional. All police officers with immediate effect have been tasked to fully comply with the ruling. Now, these are some of them. Idle and disorderly, where any person is found that. Being a prostitute, behavior in a disorderly or indecent manner in a public place. Now we are looking to leave people in indecent manner,
Yes.
in a public place. Wanderers of places, any person who wanders or places himself or herself in a public place to beg or gather lambs or cause of procedures of encourage. Now, plays, this is where, plays any game of chance for money, all monies worth in any public place.
Now, first stop there. Kirabo, the preamble, and that's why I told you earlier, if you listened very well, I told you, when these justices are making rulings, don't think they just wake up from their lovers' comfort.
Sometimes you're tempted to think.
And that is the direct reason why you don't understand some of these things. This ruling has not been made overnight. The reason why they use the word like archaic explains to you these have ceased to be implementable over the years because of the changing trends of socio-economic livelihood of people. Chichurachi, in the beginning, Robert, I told you, when you talk about, for you what you see as chance games, today it is work for some people. Why do you think today the parliament domesticated the betting law? You call it evil, but people are surviving. In as much as, and you're going to be shocked. Me, I told you one time I was in a court, and you were there. I saw 2 of my colleagues, and I'm like, guys, man. I'm like, so everyone is doing this, and the problem with black people, they're hypocrites. They're hypocrites. You know, we love to lie. We thrive on pretense and lies. I've given you an example. Today you're talking about this young man, this young woman who goes to Stenson to play a game. And that is a big issue. Abana bayononeka naika akati abatayononeka bali mu church bawasa abakazi bana batano balimba abantu, they are begging. Robert, we see these things. You get the point. And you see, so that's what I'm saying. Problem with you is that morality, you want to cut out immorality for the have-nots. But the rich people, you see, immorality is general. How many of them do we see?
Yes.
Look how they drive. They haves. You know these things, they grab land because they are rich. That is not immorality. No, let's appreciate this law.
So there is
and he said it himself.
application of the law.
Selective appreciation.
Yes.
It is, as you did put it. That we appreciate in the law because we think it is giving what we call striking a leverage for the poor ones. They're letting them be. The truth of the matter, we are struggling with a clash of culture, tradition, and modernization. Let's accept that the world is moving so fast and we are caught in between. Do we be pure traditional Africans or do we move? But the world is moving.
There is a challenge of being dynamic and flexible. Yes.
When Enanga came out and clearly stated what the law now says on adultery. If someone has been with your wife, remember those funny articles that he was mentioning, for maybe not a week, this, that doesn't amount. Aren't you scared that we shall wake up to a society, yes, economy or people's earnings and livelihoods are very important, but we may wake up to a rotten society at one point,
Robert,
because much as we are pushing for rights, I respect human rights, I respect people's earnings, but I think, and I respect modernity, because you can't resist change. If you resist change, change will change you or eliminate you.
Yes.
But the fact is, we must still have some bit of value.
Your biggest worry is prostitution,
that even our brothers and sisters that sit in these chambers,
yes,
when they are making these judgments and this ruling, at the back of their mind, they should not only look at rights and incomes and all that, but look at what generations do we want to bring.
No, but
I'll give you an example.
Yes.
Yes, I believe there's a young man who wakes up and goes to a trading center to make money. But you see, they are doing so because you see, they are closing their mind to other sources of money because there's this source. Today, prostitution has increased almost every dark corner, every street of this country. There are ladies of the night.
Now, Robert, as we're trying to because now I understand your issue here could be striking a balance, you know, catching up with the times, changing technology as being dynamic as an economy, but also having our values at the back of our mind. In your own opinion, these people who make these laws, okay, the lawmakers, how ideal should it be for them to strike a balance between those two elements?
First, they should understand a country on which they are making these laws. Two, they should know how are they protecting morals. Recently, we had the ethics, moral and ethics conference at Koro Ceremonial Grounds, where the First Lady was the chief guest and organized by the Parliamentary Forum. One, we must know that much this modernization, globalization, we should not get lost to lose who we are as a people, basing on our religious beliefs, on our culture,
let me
on
just
our
add something
customs.
to what Robert is saying.
Otherwise, we are going to end up and we are people of no definition.
The black people, and I'm sorry if anyone feels offended, we are one of the best in hypocrisy. In fact, you've gone traditional. Let me also use a traditional statement. Now tell me, these prostitutes, for your issues on the prostitute, have you ever seen?
They are not there.
Because they wouldn't be there if they were no what?
No, because they are there.
Yes.
But that's the problem. The Kirabos here,
let's ensure they are not there.
No, the Kirabos.
Felix.
Many men during the day, they will talk like, hey, immorals, immorals at night.
My issue actually is my issue here.
They are there, Robert, which have been there.
Unless they are restrained, but you're making them like flowers on the streets.
I've been to Egypt, I've been to Morocco, I've been to Tunisia, I've been to Arab Emirates, Qatar.
We are reviewing the Penal Code Act, and the question here is repealing and decriminalizing of petty offenses justified? You know, after this constitutional ruling, was there just a cause for it? Should it have happened the way it happened, or maybe we need to actually give it some justification and see if it makes sense? Well, it's Good Morning Uganda. I can assure you this conversation is going to continue even behind the scenes, but I also look forward to some of your responses on our socials. Get onto our WhatsApp 0709 602 592. Good Morning Uganda.
Live from UBC Studios in Kampala. This is Good Morning Uganda. This is Good Morning Uganda.
Every waking day is a reminder just how beautiful this, our land, truly is. The kind of beauty that you can only find here, in the lush green all around us and the wondrous sights within. It's in the distinct aroma of our cooking to the taste of food that takes you on a journey, in the sound of homecoming and the sound of Mother Earth, in the magnificence we find on our travels and the exciting moments we experience. Ours is the kind of beauty that comes in all things big and small. All we have to do is awaken our senses and truly enjoy what's uniquely ours. Explore Uganda, the pearl of Africa.
Get connected today with the My Airtel 4G smartphone, the most affordable smartphone in Uganda. You get to enjoy free 1 GB for 1 whole year. My Airtel 4G smartphone, your best value for money. Visit the nearest Airtel outlet today and get one at only 250,000 Uganda shillings. Airtel, the smartphone network.
Live from UBC Studios in Kampala. This is Good Morning Uganda.
In the press review this morning, taking the first look at the Daily Monitor, government recovers 240 billion Uganda shillings from thieving of fishers. Well, you could put this as a war on corruption. According to a scorecard released by government, this was yesterday, the Auditor General ranks top in recovering money stolen by public officials, followed by State House Anti-Corruption Unit with the Inspectorate of Government coming third on the yardstick. And they're giving you a breakdown of who did what and how much money was collected and in which office. Well, and also still in some more statistics, about 10 trillion Uganda shillings lost annually. This is money Uganda loses to corruption every single year. We're looking at 10 trillion Uganda shillings. Well, Daily Monitor, and still looking at some more stories. Government rejects new NOTU leaders, and also cultural leaders join Ebola fights, and still Basaja state drops charges. Now, in still in more news, over 2,000 miss out on government scholarships. Well, they did release the list of who was going to be the lucky one, and clearly there is quite a number that didn't exactly turn out to be lucky on this. And looking at the second page of the Daily Monitor from the archives, quite a very interesting picture of the President Idi Amin with his associate Robert Assos in Kampala back in 1977. What were they doing? Well, you need to grab yourself this paper. Today in history, British minister visits Uganda over barter trade. Also in history, over 2,300 US soldiers killed as Japan bombs Pearl Harbor. Now in the Daily Monitor Sports, FIFA World Cup, Brazilian fans pay tribute to King Pele as Brazil qualified for the quarter-finals. And also Morocco dumps Spain. Well, create some pictures showing these happy Moroccans, and also giving you some more on Selecao doing it for Pele. Well, grab yourself the Daily Monitor to grab these stories and many, many more. But also looking at the New Vision this morning, demand for student loans surpasses available funds. Students' loan scheme lists out, and Museveni assures investors, speaks on economy in the U.S. trip, and also U.S. warns Rwanda of the Democratic Republic of Congo. Teenage pregnancies, Norway gives 16 billion Uganda shillings towards that cause. And also, how are children coping with HIV/AIDS at school? Again, another story you could find in the New Vision. And looking at the second page, today in history, amnesty bill passed. The year was 1999. And also, Banda back to power. Uganda, South Korea partner to increase rice production. Well, we need it, and I hope goodness can come out of that. And looking at the sports section of the New Vision, your World Cup paper, of course, showing you your stars, what you need to know, and also the fixtures are all in there. So looking at also Morocco dream on, Africans dump Spain to reach historic last 8. Well, lucky for you, UBC will be giving you all those matches in the quarterfinals, so make sure that you stay with us. We'll be giving them to you live. If you miss, well, the first, paper, rather, if you miss the first matches, certainly you shouldn't miss these ones as we're drawing closer to the end of this World Cup 2022.
Also, the Daily Nation brings you more stories. We're looking at boarding schools shock for parents. Now, that is in the Daily Nation for today. You also look at Kenya's 6 shillings, 92 billion in Treasury in talks with the World Bank for a loan to be secured by June. That is a story on the page 5 of the Daily Nation. Also going on, 53 armed groups in DR Congo sign a peace deal. That is a story on page 24, also in the Daily Nation for today. In judiciary, judges strike a blow for gender balance in Supreme Court. Now also looking at football, Kenya seeks to host the 2027 African Cup of Nations Championship. And of course, Cabinet has approved a proposal to have Kenya host the 2027 African Cup of Nations alongside with the East African nations, as this is going to be one that will really take a lot of effort. Opinion, insulate legal processes from politics. That is a story for you right there. And of course, looking still at Ruto's sweetheart deal to entice members of parliament. That's one right there also. Raila starts 30 days of defiance. An interesting one also in today's Daily Nation.
Well, get yourself copies of these dailies as you're trying to go by your day, but also very, very quick and important for you to note the traffic updates this morning. And looking at our roads, I could say looking at areas surrounding Chebando, Kamocha, Mulago, depending on where you're going anyway, I could say that the roads this morning are quite occupied, and maybe taking it all the way from Bukenya zone, as this is part of Chigowa, getting closer to Chebando, and also looking at these areas that again are surrounding Tinda. Taking it right from there, quite very, very busy. Looking at Magambo Road this morning, we already see chaos over here. We do have the red dots, we do have the orange stretches. Clearly the traffic has already taken toll on this very part of the road. As you progress, looking at areas of Tinda, this specific part of the road is actually quite free, just a few hiccups in there, but it shouldn't be a big bother. But in Tinda 2 Road on the other story, it's already very busy. We do have very long stretches showing the traffic build-up. And looking at areas like Katalima Road, looking at Simawata Road, looking at Motesa 2 Road, again, I could say that the traffic over there is starting to build up, and definitely you should be expecting that. Katalima Road, on the other hand, already busy this morning. As you take it all the way from here, continuing straight up, you'll be experiencing some heavy traffic over there as you're trying to make adjustments. And coming back to this other part, getting closer to Naguru, well, Naguru Road has traffic hiccups here and there as well. We do have traffic build-ups here as shown by these orange spots. So again, you should probably be quite observative and also maybe just have a plan B in case things don't really look so good. And looking at some parts of Kololo as well, Archer Road is quite a free one this morning. If it's part of your daily route to wherever you're going, well, I could say that you're in luck this morning. However, the other in roads, I could say they're a bit busy. I could say we're already looking at traffic build-ups over here and over there. Well, so I could say for some parts of Kololo, you will be experiencing some traffic. And looking at Chira Road over here, we do have traffic building up already, as shown by the red marks and the orange marks as well. So yes, you also need to know that. And looking at also the other parts of Mawanda Road, of course, as you're accessing Molago or as you're trying to find your way to join the John Babiha Road, you'll be expecting again some heavy traffic because, well, it's usually the norm on that specific road as we have very many cars coming in from different parts to join through. Well, make sure that you have all the right information for you to make a decision on which route is going to be ideal for you this morning to get to your destination in time and also safe. I will leave it at that. Mollen has more to give us from the weather and climate news. I don't know what's new, what's happening over there, Mollen.
Well, we're still looking at more of what we're looking into, weather disruptions causing changes in seasons, but also production, and now threatens one of Africa's really biggest exports, that is cocoa in Ivory Coast. That is one we're going to be looking at. But also, Philomena, you also have to look into the fact that there's a story on us losing a wildlife ranger due to poaching. We still have poachers in this country that are threatening wildlife, and most of the species have been lost at the hands of poaching. Now these brave men who are trying to protect these species are now being lost at the hands of these poachers. I think it's unfortunate that as a country we continue to go through something like that. I don't know why people do not understand coexistence with these animals. It means a lot in the entire ecosystem, and that really worries me.
And it's really sad after seeing the statement that was released by UWA, that is Uganda Wildlife Authority. So now we're not only losing wildlife, but we are also losing the people who are protecting this. So I mean, it's just a personal responsibility for the individuals, especially the poachers. I don't know how we can talk to them. I don't know what we can say to them for them to actually see the bigger picture in all this. I hope we can get better, and we have the best intentions, especially for the eco world. It's quite necessary and important. Well, I will leave you to it, and I will leave Mollen to also give you quite a full weather forecast on what we should be expecting as the day goes by. I am Philomena Mastiko, and have a great morning.
Well, we're still looking at the cocoa sustainability and of course the efforts that have been failing due to the failed seasons, especially in terms of rainfall feeding into most of these agricultural practices. Now, Ivory Coast has been on a highlight for having lost much of its production this year due to disruptions in weather and climate. And of course, they also look into the fact that for the longest time, Ivory Coast has been the biggest exporter when it comes to cocoa out of Africa. And now they are worried. The farmers did come out to also reach out to most of the organizations that are helping with cocoa exportation, saying that if this is not really looked at, they could be losing a lot when it comes to the supply chain. And of course, that will entirely affect the global supply chain of cocoa, and likely to continue unless companies pay also enough attention to the weather disruptions. But also they're looking at a major report that also involves costs. Now they're saying that because there has been a lot of weather changes, farmers have had to adjust to make sure that they can increase production. However, also the companies that are dealing with the exportations are not paying enough. So meaning that the farmers have had to make the adjustments, but if companies do not adjust also on the costs, then the farmers will lose the need to want to make all the changes they need to continue with sustainability of this production. And that is where the worry is. Now, the report that came out yesterday does indicate that environmentalist and social environmental and social problems that are all involved in this could actually disrupt the entire global chain. Now they are calling on the farmers have had under the association calling on the government, but also the entire companies that are involved to make sure that they're able to help them fight their also impose most of their attributions that they've had to do in terms of countering climate change, because this is only expected to get worse as they still expect more of especially water stress due to drought crisis that has been rampant across most African countries, but also the fact that we've had also reduction in rainy conditions, because you see that most of the seasons across Africa have been failing. And this has been already being attributed to climate change. Now also we do look at a report that has so far come out on the analysis of what we could be looking at as Africa in terms of extreme weather events, and of course those that were reported and those that were not reported. And now we get sources from NASA, the analysis that has been done over there, but also the emergency events database that does also look into most of these extreme weather events. And I will highlight for you the major ones, those in orange colors right there, looking at the drought crisis. And you look at mostly what has been highlighted is the drought in Ethiopia that has affected 8.1 million people so far in 2022. And this is quite a worrying number. That also is close to the one in Niger, which also has affected a lot of people, in Chad as well. And that also highlights parts of northern Uganda. If you look closely into what is being highlighted right there in orange colors, that's where we have been experiencing mostly a drought crisis. But also one that is being highlighted is a wildfire in Algeria that killed 44 people, affecting 6,518 people. That is in red dots right there across Algeria. That is one that did make a lot of headlines. And of course part of the extreme weather events that have been happening in 2022. Not to mention the flooding across almost everywhere in Africa, and most notably the one that happened on 5th August, flooding in Chad that killed 22 people, affecting 997,000 people. And that is also to add to some of the flooding events that were in Nigeria, also being highlighted right there in the blue colors. And you also look at the fact that also with Uganda, we've had quite a number of those, the blue dots right there indicating the flooding that we had across parts of southwestern Uganda as well. Also within the Lake Victoria Basin, southwestern Uganda, also much more reported for Rwanda and Burundi that have been highlighted. Now that goes to show you how much we've also had to deal with most of that. And also noting the one that happened on April 8th, flooding in South Africa that killed 501 people, affecting 123,808 people. That was across South Africa in a continuous also flood across that area, mostly the coastal area that was affected. They also highlight for you some of the areas that have been affected by tropical storms, mostly coastal Africa towards areas of Mozambique and parts of Malawi, Zimbabwe, and of course that takes in areas of Madagascar. If you look at that, that is where we did have a lot of tropical storms, tropical cyclones, at least 5 consecutive of those that did lead into a lot of devastation and loss of lives. We're looking at more of that was highlighted on March 11th with a tropical cyclone Gombe in Mozambique that killed 63, affecting 736 people over there. And of course that one was big highlighted and being linked to the fact that we've had climate change, climate interruptions, with more of these events happening across Africa. And of course now we do know that also that includes sea surface temperatures that have been increasing across our seas and the oceans. That means that we could be looking at this. Now this, compared to the data that did come out last year, it is showing that there has been an increment in 2022 when it comes to extreme weather events. And of course the trend is also indicating that we could be looking at more of the rise, especially if we do not take action against climate change. Now back home, we want to take a look at what is happening for today. We will be tapping it from our satellites over Uganda, looking at what is happening over the country for this morning. We did start off with mostly rainy conditions that was across most areas within the Lake Victoria Basin. We also are seeing most of those systems likely to continue, especially for the western area of Lake Victoria, that we are expecting to have most of those rains coming through, and that will be also for most areas within southwestern Uganda. But we'll go ahead and take a look at the forecast that is coming in from the Uganda National Meteorological Authority to look at those numbers as well, especially looking at what we have for today. We know that at least we started off with quite some chilly weather that was across the Lake Victoria Basin, but also much of the western sector. For this time of the year, well, we do expect to have mostly that kind of temperatures, but you also have to consider the fact that the rainy conditions do coincidentally also bring in that chilly weather across much of the country. Now we're still continuing with mostly dry weather that is across much of northern Uganda as well as the Karamoja region. For this time of the year, that is normal, but also you have to consider the fact that we are now moving into the dry season that is slated for December, January, and also looking at February. We'll be having that forecast coming through. We're counting on the authority to also give us more of those updates. But for northern Uganda, unfortunately, the rainy season does begin a little bit late. We're looking at possibly June. That is when we expect to have more continuous rains. But for now, you can expect to have mostly dry conditions. Well, with local effects, you keep seeing some of the rainy conditions that come through, but of course not sustainable enough to bring in the rains for most of those areas. And that takes in the eastern part of the country, by the way. That also looks into areas of Soroti, Amuria. You look at the fact that there has been a continuation in most of those dry conditions. Even as we speak right this morning, we're starting off with quite sunny weather across areas of Amuria. We're looking at Mbale, we're looking at areas of Boyende, Moroto, starting off with quite sunny weather. Now we're also looking at much sunshine for the northwestern part of the country where we have Arua, Yumbe. We're looking at mostly that also coming in for much of today. That takes in midwestern Uganda, Hoima, Masindi, also starting off with intervals of sunny and cloudy conditions. Much sunshine though across Mbara, parts of southwestern Uganda as well. Now where we're seeing those orange colors and quite green blue right there, that's indicative of the rainy system that did start up earlier. It looks like it is continuing mostly westwards, talking about areas of Kampala, Mukono, Wakiso, and Entebbe, where we're looking at the possibility of rainy conditions for this morning. We're also looking at that system extending all the way westwards. That could be bringing us rains also for the western part of the country, most especially areas around Mbarara. We could be looking at more rains developing for areas of Boshenyi, and that could extend all the way up to Fort Portal, where we're seeing cloudy conditions already starting to develop over there. Now, as much of central, we're looking at areas of Ruwero, Woblenzi, Nakaseke, Nakasongola right there, starting off quite sunny, but we do have rains in the forecast for you. That means that most of the areas around there could be having a few scattered rains for this morning, but also most of those systems are expected to develop further within the afternoon. Also looking at what we could be experiencing for this afternoon, most of those rainy systems redeveloping later in the afternoon. That is for the Lake Victoria Basin, so that means areas around Jinja, Tororo, areas around Kampala, Wakiso, we could be looking at a little bit of rains coming through later as the morning progresses, but also later in the afternoon we could be looking at that. Otherwise, we'll continue with dry conditions for much of northern Uganda. We're also looking at intervals of sunny and cloudy conditions for much of eastern Uganda, as well as parts of central, that you can look out for much of that. Well, that is it in terms of our weather updates for this morning. Later, we'll be having Good Morning Uganda agenda, also taking you through some of the sports highlights. Later than that, we'll be going in for Good Morning Uganda Extra. Well, the forecast that is coming in from Uganda National Meteorological Authority indicates that for eastern Uganda this morning, we'll start off with a mix of clouds and sunshine. That is at 26 degrees centigrade over there. And we're looking at the central part of northern Uganda, where we have Jumani, Gulu, Kitgum, and Padel. We're forecasting a mix of clouds and sunshine as well, starting off with a pleasant 26 degrees. The central part of Lake Victoria Basin, where we have Mukono, Kampala, Entebbe and Wakiso, we're forecasting isolated showers, starting off with quite some chilly weather at 22 degrees, and we do expect similar weather in terms of rains later in the afternoon. The eastern part of Central, where we have Ruwero, Woblenzi, Burudi and Nakaseke, we're forecasting rains. Those will be across several places, also starting off with quite a cold morning at 23 degrees, but we do expect a little bit of sun to come through later in the afternoon. That will keep things warm in terms of temperatures. For eastern Uganda, Soroti, Kata, Kuyamuri and Kumi, still looking at a mix of clouds and sunshine, and we do expect a continuation of sunny intervals later in the afternoon across that area. The eastern parts of Lake Victoria Basin, we have Tororo, Busia, Iganga and Jinja forecasting rains. Also starting off quite cold at 24 degrees, and we do expect a rainy system to continue into the afternoon. That means that we will have mostly rains over there for today. Mount Elgon Highlands, where we have Mbale, Bududa, Buko and Sironko, we're forecasting a mix of clouds and sunshine. We already have mostly sunny weather for now, but we'll be looking at that also starting off with quite a cold morning at 24 degrees. Also do expect a little bit of rain to develop later in the afternoon. That is for Mount Elgon Highlands. Southwestern Uganda, Mbara, Iba, Ndabushenyi and Rubirizi, we do expect to have rains this morning across several places. That will also be starting off quite chilly at 23 degrees, and we do expect more rains as well later in the afternoon for much of Western Uganda. Well, that is it for our forecast for this morning. Do look out for those temperatures. It's quite chilly out there, so you might want to grab a jumper, a sweater, to make sure that you're able to deal with that kind of weather. My name is Mollen, Kenyena. I want to leave you at that and wish you a nice day.
This is Good Morning Uganda.
The FIFA World Cup Qatar 2022. The wait is over.
Welcome to English in a Minute. If you're broke, you have little or no money. Am I going to have to help Jonathan or Anna pay a bill?
Well, Jonathan, I'm doing it. I'm joining the circus.
Excuse me?
That's right. But not just any circus. The Cirque du Soleil.
You got into Cirque.
Well, not yet. But I already told my boss that I'm quitting, and I found someone to move into my apartment. Montreal, here I come.
Wow, you're really going for broke.
When you go for broke, you take a big risk in hopes of having a big success. This phrase comes from gambling, when a player bets all their money at once. If they win big. But if they lose, they really do go broke. And that's English in a Minute.
Happiness comes to us in many places.
It's in knowing the mosquito net keeps our children healthy. The wife having the support of her husband. It's in deciding together when to have a baby. And for some, focusing on what's important right now. So what's your happiness? Make the right health decisions to ensure happiness for you and your family.
Live from Now Avenue in UBC Studios. This is Good Morning Uganda.
Good morning, Uganda. Thank you for joining us. Well, if you have just joined the party, and for those of you who are able to wake up with us as early as 6:30 a.m., it's a pleasure to still have you with us this morning. 3 minutes after the hour of 8 a.m., you're watching Good Morning Uganda coming to you live on UBC TV. My name is Philomena Mastiko, and it is the GMU agenda where we have quite some interactive conversations and talks with our very special guests, depending on what's happening around us. And remember, you can be part of this discussion. Get onto our socials, hashtag UBCGMU, and make use of our WhatsApp platform, 0709-602-592. Well, this morning, we're going to have quite a pretty interesting discussion about a pretty interesting topic with some pretty interesting guests this morning that I will be introducing just in a couple of minutes. But this morning, our discussion, we're going to be looking at women and entrepreneurship and what we have done to support them. Who is there? Who is supporting them? What do they bring to the table? What do the statistics show here in Uganda specifically when we look at the African continent, even globally? How have we supported women? Now, studies have actually shown that Uganda has the second highest number of women business owners in the world at about 38.4%, yet they actually generate 30% lower profits than their male counterparts. Now, these are statistics that were picked from the World Bank report in 2019. And after that, there are very many strategies we put ahead, but there is this one special one that I believe we need to draw our attention to. And this morning, we're going to be talking about the NSSF High Innovator Women Accelerator. Have you heard about this? Well, do you want to hear about this? What are they offering? What is this? How would it help? Well, lucky for you, this morning I am joined by two great gentlemen who are going to be throwing more light on that and tell us, what is this accelerator thing? Does it apply to you? Could you be a big beneficiary of it? Well, allow me to introduce this morning Mr. Alex Rumanyika, Head of Strategy NSSF. Good morning and thank you for joining us.
Good morning, Philomena.
Good morning.
Very pleased to be here.
Well, I do have also Mr. Richard Zulu, the team leader, Outbox, who also, I believe, is the implementing partner in this High Innovator Accelerator. Thank you so much for joining us this morning, Richard.
Good morning, Philomena.
How are you doing? How are you feeling? How is your Wednesday going?
Excited.
Okay.
Pretty excited.
I'm really excited to hear what you have to say. You know why? Because I'm hearing women somewhere in there. So... Yes. But yes, we're talking about these very special NSSF High Innovator Women Accelerator. Maybe you should just break it down for us, Richard. What is the NSSF High Innovator Women Accelerator about?
So the NSSF High Innovator Women Accelerator is an initiative that's part of the broader High Innovator initiative, which is comprised of NSSF, which, as you know, is our social security pension fund, in partnership with Mastercard Foundation, under their Young Africa Works strategy and implemented by Outbox. This initiative that started in 2020 seeks to create up to 132,000 work opportunities for young people in Uganda. Of those 132,000 work opportunities that we seek to create, sustain and improve, 70% of those should be towards women. So in terms of implementing the High Innovator Initiative, we seek to invest in early stage small and growing businesses that demonstrate that potential for scale, impact and sustainability.
Yes.
Sustainability meaning you can make money, impact meaning you can create jobs, and scalability meaning you can reach a huge number of people. So that is largely done by extending some financing to these small and growing businesses that they would not have otherwise accessed through traditional financial institutions, and offering technical assistance like linkages to market and other support in terms of how they can improve their business operations. So for a while now, this is the third edition, known as the NSF High Innovator Women Accelerator. In previous editions, we have largely seen a low uptake of women entrepreneurs in these opportunities. And we sat down and wondered what is really impeding women from partaking of such opportunities, from growing their businesses. And it was the learnings and insights from that that informed this call that we are calling the NSSF High Innovator Women Accelerator, that is geared towards supporting women-led and women-owned businesses to actually receive the support and scale.
Okay. Now, still speaking of NSSF, we know that they have really supported different factions of Ugandans in all possible ways. And I'm really glad that this is also again under your umbrella. Now, Alex, why is NSSF introducing this innovation specifically at this time?
Okay. Thank you very much, Philomena. So, 3 reasons. The first one is jobs. The second one is jobs. The third one is jobs. Huh?
Okay.
Yeah. So if you look at, let's look at an educated Ugandan to start with. You finish university at about the age of 23, maybe 22. And every year we are graduating about 400,000 graduates from university. Only about 75,000 of those people are getting jobs. Huh? So that leaves about, over 300,000 people who don't have anything to do after that. Huh? For the vast majority, they will try to start a small business. And most of them will not see the first anniversary of their business, which leaves them at a place with no dignity and future.
Yes.
So one of the things that the partnership between Mastercard Foundation and NSSF is trying to achieve is creating meaningful and dignified jobs. And that's a very important part of what we're trying to do, meaningful and dignified. And when you look at when you look at this through the gender lens, for instance, you find that women actually have the short end of the stick.
Yes.
So it's harder for women to get jobs for social and other reasons. And yet the impact that women have when it comes to managing money and managing businesses is much bigger. So there's the aspect of creating jobs for young people, but there's also the aspect of the impacts that we stand to benefit from women getting into business. Yeah, so principally this is our sustainability agenda as NSSF, because without creating jobs, then we won't get the contributions to survive as an institution.
Okay.
That's a very important cycle for us.
All right. Now, Richard, you did mention MasterCard also being a partner at the start when we were starting this conversation. So why is MasterCard involved in this? What part are they playing majorly in this partnership?
Yeah, so Mastercard Foundation launched the Young Africa Works strategy. That's a continental-wide initiative that seeks to create almost 3 million work opportunities for young people in Africa. In Uganda specifically, we're looking at 4.3 million work opportunities for young people. So MasterCard came in as a partner under the Young Africa Work strategy, and through that, of the 4.3 million, the NSF High Innovator will support 1.3 thousand. But most importantly, MasterCard Foundation has shared the risk with NSSF. They've brought $5 million, NSF has brought $5 million. This is one of the largest initiatives that is supporting early stage small and growing businesses that no one would have otherwise invested in. So for us, we are really excited about the bold bet of working with local partners, creating system change in terms of trying to see who else can actually walk this journey with these partners in terms of unlocking capital that is actually quite patient in nature.
Yes. Well, the conversation this morning, we're talking about the NSSF High Innovator Women, and we want to know what exactly is this, how beneficial is it, what's the role, what are they looking at, what's the agenda, and I mean, be part of the conversation, know what we are talking about, join the discussion, get into our socials. Now, it's a partnership, and you did mention NSSF being a partner. We've talked about MasterCard. We also do have Outbox, and I mean, lucky for us, we do have representatives from some of these partners. But what exactly is each of these partners doing? You already highlighted about what MasterCard is doing, but what is NSSF doing? What is Outbox expected to do in this partnership? Alex.
Thank you very much, Philomena. I have to emphasize that MasterCard Foundation, rather than MasterCard, the two are separate organizations.
Yes.
So NSSF's part is really two major roles, really. The first is obviously to provide the funding, which is, I'll use the word catalytic. We're supposed to provide funding which can create extra funding. So we put in the $5 million, which attracted an extra $5 million from MasterCard Foundation,
okay,
which is also attracting more capital. We've also got some banking partners. So by the time a conservative institution such as NSSF takes a bold bet, a bold risk on businesses like this, it will give other partners confidence to actually come on board. And I think right now Uganda needs such catalytic funding. So that's our first role. The second role is really to use our brand to give the program some clout, because that clout is important.
It's really necessary.
It's very important.
Yes.
So using our brand, which I think is a pretty good brand, will attract other people to the program and play an important role in unifying the other support organizations in the ecosystem. I think that's another important role. So while we have Outbox as a lead implementing partner, we've been able to attract the likes of Uganda Development Bank, Stanbic, and other important partners, purely because of the brand.
Okay.
Yeah. Then speaking to the role of Outbox, Outbox is what you would call an entrepreneurship support organization. You know, when you're starting a business, there is some support you need in terms of either how you set it up, either how you access financing, either how you access markets, and this is where Outbox comes in. It's been around for 10 years now, and our work has been to ensure that the businesses and entrepreneurs we support receive the technical assistance to actually grow their businesses. We help them prepare for follow-on financing and mentorship. But below that, we have 9 other entrepreneurship support organizations located all over the country that are actually doing the same work of ensuring that the entrepreneurs we support receive the right support.
Okay. Now, specifically for the Women Accelerator, I would really love to know, and I'm pretty sure the viewers would also love to know, how much, funds of this project have been allocated specifically for the women entrepreneurship. Maybe, I don't know, Alex, you could tell us that.
Well, each entrepreneur stands to gain up to $20,000 in funding, and we intend to fund at least 100 women entrepreneurs. So the figure, just to make it look good in Uganda shillings, is about 7.6 billion shillings.
There is a lot you can do with that money.
Which is a handsome amount.
Yes.
Yeah. So, but it's actually more than that in terms of the the potential impact it can give you. Because once you have that seed funding, you're in a position to get loans from the bank.
Yes.
You're in the position to get assets which can multiply the growth of your business as well. So just a point of emphasis is that this is just a kind of entandikwa to get you to a much higher place. Huh?
Okay. Yeah. And looking at the target group, who is eligible to be part of this, to be a beneficiary of the High Innovator Women Accelerator? Do you have any specifics that you're paying attention to, that you're looking at to deem somebody eligible for this?
Yeah. So in terms of eligibility, we've tried to keep it as simple as possible. The first is one has to have a registered business, because you can't transact if you're not registered.
Okay.
And that we mean you're registered with URA, that's Uganda Revenue Authority, you're registered with Uganda Revenue Services Bureau, and you're registered with NSSF. If you're not registered with NSSF, the first phase of the program, which is called the Business Academy, we can really help you through that process and help you understand what that really means. The second is your business must be women-owned, at least 50% women-owned.
Oh, okay.
Yes, 50%. Or 70% of the management that you have in the business is women. We have now provided room for sole proprietorships to apply, so you must have at least one founder, but you must demonstrate that you have at least 2 full-time people.
Yes.
Working with you to support you with the day-to-day aspects of the business. We are looking for businesses that also have Ugandan representation, so we want to see that at least one of the founding members is Ugandan.
Yes.
And at least 70% of your staff are young people. So as a founder, you have no age limit.
Yes.
But at least the people you employ,
yes, the employees.
We should see some young people.
Why are you looking at young people anyway?
Because just like he said,
yes,
we have a very huge problem. If we don't solve this problem of getting young people into work, as we go down the road, we're going to have a very, very huge problem in terms of our society, rise in crime and everything. So as much as possible, one of the pathways of creating that is investing in businesses that can grow and create jobs. The other is we accept businesses from any sector.
Yes.
Previously, we were quite prescriptive, but now we learned that women-owned businesses usually participate in sectors that are not attractive to financiers.
Yes.
And we want to kind of change that and demonstrate why it's important for us to start looking at those sectors when it comes to job creation. The other is you should not have raised more than 1 billion shillings in debt, that means loans, or equity, which means giving away a share of your company. And why that is important is because we want this money and support to go to the businesses that actually need it most.
Yes.
Then lastly, we are looking for businesses that have made at least 10 million in their past year of operation. We are looking for 2 years of operation, but at least in the previous year, you've made 10 million in annual revenue, not profit.
Okay.
And the reason we want to see some numbers is because it's evidence that you have a product you're selling and there are people who pay for it.
There is work going on.
There's work going
yes,
on.
Yes.
So these things are quite helpful to ensure that we find the right entrepreneurs. I forgot one thing. One of the reasons as to why we are doing the High Innovator Initiative is to change the mindset of our young entrepreneurs, where we have this belief that money is free money. And
that's quite sad.
And you don't need to pay it back.
Yes.
We are trying to change behavior. We are trying to help these early stage founders know that once you take money, you have an obligation to pay it back. So we are also looking for entrepreneurs who are willing to give at least 6% of their shareholding to NSSF. So it happens in phases in that when you sign on the program, you give NSSF the option. It doesn't exercise it at that point in time.
Okay.
But when you demonstrate certain key performance indicators, then NSF might say, oh, this is a very good business to actually work with. So imagine such a huge fund being a shareholder in your business, and you take this documentation to any financier.
Yes.
Who would refuse to listen to you, right? So there is value in working this journey with the entrepreneur, and that's how we want them to also look at it.
Okay. Well, you're targeting a young, generation, young entrepreneurs, and for a typical young Ugandan entrepreneur, when we have strategies and innovations like this, and one of the things they will look at are benefits. Okay, a typical entrepreneur will want to know, okay, fine, I am going to participate in the NSSF High Innovator Women Accelerator, but what are some of the benefits that I'm going to be expecting? Maybe you could throw more light on that.
Okay, I'll talk a bit, a bit about some of them. I think Richard will add, but I think the most important benefit that you will get is your ability to grow your business. Huh?
Yes.
One of the things that you will see is that many entrepreneurs in Uganda think of their business in a very localized manner. You'll open a shop in Chireka, and it will stay in Chireka. Contrast that with someone like Mandela, who started, I think the first Java outlet was on Bombo Road, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes.
It has expanded to Nairobi, Kenya, and it has become a regional business. So how does that happen? That happens when you have the right knowledge about how to grow your business, and you have the right networks in terms of funding partners, in terms of coaches and things like that.
Yes.
So really, what you'll benefit from this ecosystem is getting that kind of support almost free of charge. So it is a huge benefit. You'll have access to funding, you'll have access to knowledge. There's a free online academy which you will benefit from. But also, most importantly, you'll have the networks to actually expand your business.
Yes.
Maybe Richard, you can add a few words on that.
No, I think you've said it all. We are always humbled by even the mindset change that happens within the entrepreneurs. You'd be surprised that just by participating, even in this process where we are helping them prepare for a selection committee, many of them change so many things about how their businesses operate. But most importantly, of course, is the exposure you get to the different financing partners and market actors that can either buy from you in terms of helping you grow your sales and things like that. So Alex has really said it all. But I think for the women, we looked at a few things that impede their participation.
Yes.
And the aspects we saw were, one, there are a lot of biases when it comes to accessing financing for them.
Yes.
If a woman walked in with a proposal and a man walked in with the same proposal, the man is more likely to be listened to by a financing institution. And these are the things we struggle with every other time. They don't have collateral to put towards accessing financing. Then, we have all these household challenges that stand in the way. And then we have the aspect of mindset, right?
Yes.
So we've fine-tuned our program in such a way that we help with building their self-confidence. We work with financiers and also work with them to see how best they can prepare for that follow-on financing in terms of growing their business, but also help them figure out how do you operate a business either in a family setting, if it's family owned, and also how would you operate a business with the other constraints you have around your time and mobility, either because of childcare and things like that. So, so these are things we are paying specific attention to and ensuring that everyone we work with tailors the support to address these challenges facing women in particular.
Okay. You also did make mention of skill training and looking at the specific entrepreneurial skill trainings. Are you going to focus on specific topics, or are you going to leave it open and talk about each and everything? What are you looking at specifically under this skill training?
So the topics I talked about, some of them, and we're going to pay specific attention to that, but I think it's important that the viewers understand how the process works, for them to understand where the skills training comes in. So the first part of the High Innovator Women Accelerator is what we call a business academy. It's online, it's free, anyone can take it. You can take it between 2 weeks to 4 weeks, or even as fast as you want, because it's self-directed.
Yes.
The moment you apply, we assign a partner to you, a partner entrepreneurship support organization, and this partner walks that journey with you. Now, the reason we have that training, it has 8 modules focused on a number of topics. We've also included digital literacy, largely for the women-owned businesses, because we see that being very important. There's aspects of financing and managing your books. There are aspects of personal development and many others. So when you go through this course, the purpose is to prepare you for the next opportunity, which is now the accelerator.
Yes.
So then during the accelerator, you go through another preparatory training known as a boot camp, a pre-selection boot camp, before you then get to pitch to the investment committee. So that's where the initial skills training comes in. That's democratized, anyone can participate in it. And if you start early, when we put out more calls, you then stand an opportunity to benefit.
Okay. The NSSF High Innovator Women Accelerator is what we are talking about this morning. Now, talking about the winning businesses, what criteria is going to be used to select these winning businesses and the ones who are going to walk away happy?
So I think there are 3 major criteria that we look at. The first one, of course, is impact. What social impact can this business have on Uganda? We already talked about the need to create jobs in Uganda. So are we seeing that that can happen? So the second one is sustainability. Can this business actually make money? Let's not run away from the fact that a business needs to make money. And then the third one is scale. One of the things we're trying to encourage women entrepreneurs to do is to think of their businesses from a much more broader scope. We shouldn't think that Uganda is your only market.
Yes.
Yeah. Could you export things to the United Arab Emirates and other markets like that? So trying to think big. How big can your business grow, and how fast can it grow big?
Yes.
Then there's a fourth one, which we're calling additionality. So for $20,000, Philomena, what value would you add to $20,000?
Yes.
Could you turn it into $1 million? So what special thing do you have that could actually multiply that money many times over?
All right, and I think it really makes perfect sense. But you also mentioned about this. I think this is the 3rd cohort. Yes. Now, for the people who have previously been part of, the first, maybe second, can they actually partake in this as well?
It depends on what your status is at the moment. So if you qualified,
yes,
and you got support, you cannot participate in this call, because we now need to move you forward.
Yes.
There are certain things we're already working on. But if you didn't qualify,
yes,
and you tried to apply, definitely you can still participate in this current call.
Okay. Now, this next question, and I would really want to pay quite a whole lot of attention to it, because there are very many other women support the innovations, initiatives, and all that have come through. We are supporting women in this business world. We are supporting young women entrepreneurs. Now we also do have this NSSF High Innovator Women Accelerator. I mean, how different is it from what we have been seeing here in Uganda? I mean, why would I definitely want to partake in this? What are they offering me that's different from what has been offered previously by all these other different support groups?
Okay. Very good question, Philomena. I think maybe I'll start by answering that as NSSF, we are not positioning ourselves to push out other support organizations. Rather, we're actually trying to do the opposite. We're trying to unify the ecosystem. I think what is different is a couple of things. One is to start with the whole idea of democratizing knowledge.
Yes.
So I think this is the one place where you're going to get the freest knowledge, the best knowledge at completely no price. Because one of the things that Richard hasn't mentioned is that besides the free academy, we are going to be doing master classes with some coaches, some very specialist coaches. I don't know if you followed the events at the launch a couple of weeks ago. We had a coach called Vumi Msweli, who will actually be coaching these women, especially in terms of branding, presentation, and a couple of things. So there's no place where you're going to get that kind of support at no cost.
Yes.
I think that's one of the most important things that we're offering. The second thing is really about thinking about how your business can actually grow. This is the one place you will start to see that your business can grow much bigger than it ever could if you didn't get this kind of support.
Yes.
So we'll try and help you overcome the barriers related to getting collateral, to getting funding partners, to getting coaches and things. Those barriers which would otherwise stop you from growing, I think the NSSF is in a position where they can afford to remove those barriers for you.
Yes.
Because we expect a good return from that investment.
Okay.
So I think those are the two important things that you get from this program.
All right. Well, also I think it would be just really nice knowing some of the notable achievements you've made, ever since this was launched. That was back in 2021? 2020, yes, 2020. Any notable achievements that you could actually talk about proudly?
Yeah, it's quite a lot.
I realized the heavy signs, like there is a lot coming.
Yeah, so when we first launched, first of all, we started off with a pilot.
Yes.
In around 2019, where we selected 5 businesses. Then when we joined together with Young Africa Works, our first cohort had 27 businesses.
Okay.
We've just recently are onboarding another 78 businesses and are now looking for 100 businesses. So you can imagine the amount of capital, the amount of support that has been put into the entrepreneurs at this point in time. 2, the initiative has built the capacity of entrepreneurship support organizations. We have the largest network of entrepreneurship support organizations working together to ensure the success of these entrepreneurs. So we have Stanbic Business Incubator, we have Shona, we have Makerere University Business School, Entrepreneurship and Innovation Center. We have Uganda Christian University Mbale Innovation Hub. We have Makerere Innovation and Incubation Center. We have Impact. We have Women in Technology Uganda. We have Curad, and we have Mukazipreneur.
Yes.
And we're onboarding more. So imagine this is a collective of enterprises whose capacity has been improved to support entrepreneurs at scale. And we have many other success stories that we've been running in the media, in our billboards, around the impact that the entrepreneurs have seen in their own businesses when it comes to participating in the High Innovator initiative.
Okay.
So we're still walking this journey with them. And for us, recently when we did the analysis, we saw a slight increase in terms of work opportunities created by the portfolio that we are actually supporting, and increase in revenue. So for us, that is a very good demonstration that the businesses are growing. despite the economic hardships.
Yeah, and I think at the end of the day, progress is very important. If you keep noting progress, clearly it's a red flag, if I can call it that. Well, now for the eligible women entrepreneurs, how do they get to join the program, and is there a deadline, which is when?
Yeah, the women that are interested, so you start online, like we said.
Yes.
If you can use your phone, you can walk into any of those places that I mentioned to access the internet or infrastructure. You visit High Innovator Business Academy.nssfug.org. Okay?
Yes.
Even when you just put it in Google, it will bring you the website. So you then do the Business Academy, and you must complete it by 31st January of 2023. The reason for that is because then we shall start moving those who have completed the Business Academy over to the next phase of the process, which is preparing them to present their business case in front of an independent investment committee. So what people have to know is that you don't have to pay anything to participate. It is free. Let no one come soliciting that they know us or anything.
Yes.
Things are on merit, and that's why we have a very transparent process in terms of how you get in. The selection committee is very independent of us, so that then you have an opportunity to partake of this support.
Okay. Well, as we're drawing closer to the end of this, I really now, this one is a bit, you know, even off script. When we talk about young entrepreneurs, and I mean, Alex, you're from NSSF, you're from Outbooks, Richard, looking at the young entrepreneurs we have right now, and we're not only just directing this only at the young women entrepreneurs, looking at entrepreneurs generally, what would you say they could do better to position themselves, okay, when opportunities come, opportunities like this come? How do they find them when they're ready? Because when we're talking about the eligibility, you talked about certain things they need to be meeting, you know, some boxes they need to be able to tick off to be part of this. And I mean, Alex, you did talk about also how you're not really trying to push out all these other support groups. Say maybe aside from this NSSF High Innovator Women Accelerator, if any other chance or opportunity came through, how do the young entrepreneurs ready themselves to position themselves? Because there are very many challenges. If you talk to a young entrepreneur right now, some could be because of their own making, others is beyond them. But I mean, what advice would you give to a young entrepreneur right now that maybe in the near future, if you don't benefit from this, you could benefit from other opportunities that could be coming your way?
Thank you. So, I mean, being an entrepreneur is very difficult. I think that's the first thing we have to acknowledge.
Yes.
For those of us who are in informal employment, I think we look at them with a lot of envy. So it's very difficult to be an entrepreneur, more especially in a country like Uganda.
Yes.
So, if you're starting out your journey as an entrepreneur, I think the first thing is really about being curious. You have to equip yourself with the right knowledge.
Yes.
Yeah. And opportunities to get knowledge are available. So it's best to exploit them, especially an opportunity like this, like the High Innovator, where the information is free. Because an entrepreneur's journey naturally is going to have a lot of failures along the way. So you want to limit, or rather you want to increase the rate of learning as you fail. So the first thing is really to be in a position to learn. So having that mindset to learn. The second thing is being in the right place at the right time in terms of meeting people and the networks. I think that's the second thing that will help entrepreneurs to position themselves to grow. So if you're not associated with an enterprise support organization already, my advice is that you register to be supported. A lot of them offer just free services where you can just come in and learn, free working spaces, or certainly they're affordable. So those are the two things that if I was to give an entrepreneur some advice, I'd give him those two pieces of advice. Be in a position to learn, join one of these ESOs, and you'll get quite a bit of support from there. From there, it's really about action. Take action. Yeah, if you don't take action, the first place to success is to take action.
Yes.
Yeah, well, those are 3 things I'd advise.
Yes.
To add to his points, one of the things we've seen that stands in the way of entrepreneurs is looking at an initiative like this and thinking it's free money. So what does that mean? You get other people to participate in you, to do the documentation for you, to do the course for you, and everything. And when it comes to you presenting your business case as an individual, you really struggle with explaining what it is.
Yes.
Because you have not walked that journey in terms of building your capacity. Now, it's not to say that we expect you to be the accountant, the engineer in your business or anything like that.
Yes.
But it's to say that you have to actively participate and put in the work. Because an initiative like this actually pays attention to detail. We shall see. We shall see through you that you actually didn't participate in this journey, you didn't participate in this process. We understand many of them are busy, and the reason as to why we have this process like this is because part of what we are looking for is the resilience. How important is this initiative to you as a business owner? So if you feel that you don't have the time, then create the time if you believe this is really important. So an entrepreneur out there has to really change their mindset when opportunities like this come, actively walk the journey, because things have changed in terms of how we support entrepreneurs. We really want to invest in those who are dedicated, who are resilient, and who actually mean business in terms of what they want to do.
Well, it goes back to changing mindsets. It's no wonder even the president, His Excellency, did talk about how Ugandans will need to change our mindsets in everything we do and even in every way we think about whatever we think about. Well, it is Good Morning Uganda, and it was quite interesting a discussion we had. We had Alex Rumanyika, Head of Strategy from NSSF, and also Richard Zulu over here, Team Leader Outbox, talking to us, giving us more intel on the NSSF High Innovation Women Accelerator. Do you think you meet the requirements? Well, do the right thing, go online and apply. You never know, this could be the breakthrough for you. It could be the breakthrough point. At the end of the day, the ultimate goal is to see women excel in this world of entrepreneurship. Well, thank you so much, gentlemen, for stopping by and having this conversation. I'm glad I learned what I learned, and I will spread the gospel. I'm Philomena Mastiko, and we have GMU Extra queued up right after this. Hopefully, I will see you tomorrow. Have a wonderful Wednesday.
Live from Now Avenue in UBC Studios. This is Good Morning Uganda.
The FIFA World Cup Qatar 2022. The wait is over.
Get yourself a Zuku TV decoder and satellite dish today at a low price of only 105,000 Ugandan shillings, and the Zuku decoder at only 60,000 Ugandan shillings, and enjoy your favorite movies, series, kids entertainment, music, local and international news, and lots more. Enjoy amazing packages like Zuku Smart Plus, Zuku Classic, Zuku Premium, and Zuku Asia. Get connected today. Zuku.